you can always tone things down if you need to. It's not like we're locking this in permanently right now this evening. So we understand that. We thank you for your time and your commitment to our community. And it's not going to be easy for you guys. And we applaud you. And again, we support Alternative B.
Thank you, and thank you for the time that you have. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is John Schaefer. I live in Arcata. A couple of comments. The feasibility study, it seems to me, suffers from a severe failure. It doesn't tell you whether the port is feasible or not. Now, we all know that, in fact, the port can't be feasible without the railroad. The railroad can't be feasible without the port. Neither one of them has any likelihood of success, it seems to me. So the feasibility study is pretty much fraudulent. May I say also, I was pleased to see that the Harbor District and the Railroad Authority are going to cooperate. That's a good idea. It would be an even better idea if they cooperated on things that were feasible and possible and of use to the county and did not involve a waste of taxpayer money. Thank you.
And thank you. Come on up.
I'm Aaron Antrim, also with Green Wheels, which advocates for balanced and sustainable transportation. And I want to echo a lot of the concerns about feasibility with option B, that it depends on restoring the railroad through the Eel River Canyon, that there's very little evidence it will be possible to attract shippers, that dredging to 48 feet, as it specifies in the study, is probably impractical, that there is a host of environmental and health issues that need to be addressed. Now, as I understand, the district has sought private dollars to make some of these capital improvements for years. And I think that some of the difficulty in attracting private dollars stems from some of the very feasibility issues that people are bringing up tonight. So I ask you, why should we invest our tax dollars when apparently it's not good enough for private investment because it can't turn a profit, or at least there are some concerns there. Tonight, and also in some columns in newspapers, we've been hearing that choosing option B will preclude option A, and that we have, in essence, nothing to lose by choosing option B. But I really want to question that notion. As I understand, option B would commit us to a marketing plan for our port of questionable viability. We'll pay $100,000 of Headwaters money to develop the business plan. We'll invest in dockside infrastructure, and there's other costs that we'll be paying out without a guaranteed return on investment, or at least without a very likely chance of return on investment. I'd also like to respond to another thing we've been seeing in the media and hearing a little bit of. For example, the column which appeared in the Reporter was given the headline, "Environmental Groups Oppose Port Development." And we're being cast as anti-growth, anti-development, and that is not true. And I want to address that directly. Green Wheels is not anti-growth and anti-development. We are interested in feasible, sustainable transportation development options, including, for example, I think option A brings up some great opportunities for short sea shipping. So we and our constituents cannot support wasting taxpayer dollars on infeasible projects. I'm inclined to support option A, but I urge the district to have Trans-Systems revise the document to study more options and address some of its deficiencies.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Good evening. My name is Sven Kalla, and I live directly on the bay, sometimes in the bay on a storm tide. I would be one of those people signing up for potential litigation in the event of a major deepening project, because I'm very much affected by the rate and the violence of the tide as it's allowed to come into this bay. It has been continually altered, which has changed the nature of the flows in the bay, and it will ultimately require a raising of all the dikes around the North Bay for sure. I don't know, I'm not very familiar with the South Bay, but I imagine there's going to be some of that there too. You might want to add that into the cost. And then on to the idea of competing in a business which is a dirty, rotten, low-down business, which is container shipping. I've got a little bit of experience in that, and I just spent time in a town called Bremerhaven in northern Germany, which is a town of about 100,000 people with a container port, and there's a string of diesel trucks, end to end, that run through that town, 24/7. It's really nothing pleasurable at all about it. Unless you had a rail to alleviate that, and of course that's not looking particularly brilliant either, this would be a real disaster for this town. It really would. I've seen it. I can just picture Broadway end to end. You had even just probably 6 or 8 cranes out there operating. And not to mention the fact that you're not going to have much luck deepening that port if I have anything to do with it.
Well, Bravenhaven wasn't much of a town 50 years ago either. I was there also.
Actually, they have a thriving business as a technical services facility, which is a point that I would like to make. That is something that Humboldt County might, if it chose to,
We want to keep
on
going.
something that wasn't a bottomless pit. My name's John Murray, and a local engineer. And I'm not a member of any group. I'm not an environmentalist. I don't care what things are. I've been around a long time, and whenever I come up and put something up here, I had the county put this little nub on here. I get tired of people putting things on and going whoosh onto it. Question here for you. This is a question for you. I don't know, a few years ago, you commissioned a study. And one part of that was, is the railroad feasible? And the answer is no. Your own study said if you spend $150 million and then forgive that amount, and the railroad goes into service, it's going to lose money. So now, you are now looking at something, option B, that depends on the railroad. If you commissioned the study to ask, is the railroad feasible, and you're ignoring it, why are you considering something with a railroad? So that is my question. So apparently, if you do studies and you don't follow them, then this study might not be followed. We don't know. But it's, the railroad isn't going to come back as a feasible entity. And I'm not getting on you for doing studies and not following them, because if you really wanted to do that, you could look, the city of Eureka has about 28 parking studies, and they still are doing more studies. And I just point that out for our person. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Pull it back down, John.
Yeah.
That's what I was called. Dennis Mayo from McKinleyville. I just came from the kickoff of the Arcade 150 year anniversary celebration. Mark Whitley said to be sure to tell you all hello, and that he couldn't be here, and that's the only reason that he couldn't be here. I just forgot my glasses. I apologize.
You want mine?
I'm not quite that blind.
No. Trying to be
I'm sorry, but that wasn't. You get 2 minutes. Okay. So I want to just mention something about feasibility. I have something that I wanted to say, but feasibility keeps coming up and coming up and coming up, and you know that's an odd word. It means something different to everybody. So I want to tell you a little cowboy story. When I was a teenager and I was rodeoing, I had the opportunity to be around some of the pros, Jim Shoulders and a lot of those guys. And there was a young guy coming with his family, riding bucking horses and bulls and getting bucked off on his head all the time. And I heard Jim Shoulders say to this guy, it ain't feasible, kid. You can't do this. You need to take your family home. You're never going to amount to anything. And you know, Larry Mahan won the world 8 times. So feasibility is just a kind of an interesting thing. I think that Plan B isn't really a long shot. It's more of keeping all our options open. A is a part of that step. We can have it all. I really think we can have it all. And that's the reason that I spent a year working on the Strategic Planning Committee. And in that process, I hope you all will take time and look at that process, because that process was about all of you, every one of you here, no matter what your position is or what you think about. We came up with what we thought were lots of great ideas, but the main idea, the main scenario that we wanted was for all of you to be involved. And yet, I didn't see many of you there. You know, a lot of you that are here tonight, I didn't see you, and I wanted to see you. Dave Spring had something on the internet the other day, and he came a time or two, and he's got great ideas. Some of those ideas are great, and we want to include those ideas, but we can't preclude things to include them. I just want to say one quick thing about controlling our future. You all remember the water bags? Okay? I hated that idea. I just despised that idea. But what that should tell us is that if we don't control our water, and it is deemed surplus water by the state, no matter what we think about it, it is surplus water, and we have to find a way to control it. I'll tell you, this is a very similar situation. We have to control our own destiny. We have to be open to everybody's view of the community, and I want everybody to stay involved. And guys, this isn't a win-lose situation. There should be no rancor involved in this. Thank you.
Thank you.
I never thought I was tall, so I'll bring this down even lower. My name is Rob Macbeth. I'm a resident of Eureka. I've been here for pretty much all my life. And I'm here to support option B. I feel that option B leaves our options open. I'm with Dennis. I think that if we go with option A, it's going to preclude B. Maybe B is a long shot. Maybe the railroad's a long shot. But let's not close the door to it. I don't think anything we do, we're going to see Humboldt Bay turn into, or Eureka turn into in Oakland. I don't think we're going to have containers trucks lined up and down Broadway. I just don't think we're going to go there. Anyway, I spent a lot of time on the waterfront years ago, but unfortunately most of that time was in Tina Christensen's establishment there at the Dist. So you have to forgive me for that. And Roy, thank you for that time you spent in Germany 50 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Hi, my name is Jerry Singer. I work at Humboldt State. I'm a campus recycler. I'm here to speak in favor of option B. I think that I've been here for almost 30 years. I've been here 30 years. And like the mono economy that timber and fishing was, I think that going only with option A, that you're going to do the same thing with tourism. I don't think tourism supports long-term, good-paying jobs. I was reading with some amusement the rail-to-trail stats, and when I saw that they were proposing that there might be 660,000 riders a year on whatever path is constructed, broke that down 1,800 a day. At 6 hours a day, that's 300 riders an hour. At 800 or at 8 hours, that'd be 200. It's kind of comparable to a tourist coming, going to wanting a nice, seaside holiday and going to South Beach, Miami during spring break. It's a good idea, but I think it's in the wrong place. What I think you should do is widen the Myrtletown Old Arcata Road corridor and put a bike path there. It's more scenic. It'll also increase accessibility. I think what you're going to have with the arcade at Eureka down that bike path is going to be like salmon at low tide gathering in a pool waiting for high tide. 300 people, and how are they going to get through Eureka and or Arcata to get on that one bike path? I don't think it's going to be any better than the safety, than what we have now. I think by putting that path over on old Arcata Road, you're also going to provide access for the people who live out in that area. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Greg Gardner, and I'm a relatively new resident here, going on bought a business here about 3 years ago. And I'd like to say, despite all the passion that we've heard tonight, I've been very pleased with the decorum that's been shown here tonight as both people present their sides. Obviously, people really care about this issue. From my point of view, it's about sustainable economic development and how we look forward, not for our generation, but for generations to come after us. And as we look towards those things, one of the things I think that is extremely important is that we take a look and keep our options open, because the world that we have today is changing. Oil is hovering at $100 a barrel for crude. All of these things make getting things here much more expensive. We already have some of the highest gas prices anywhere in the country. So those things I think are very important. Second, this community had a vibrant visitor industry up until the 1964 flood. The Avenue of the Giants still hasn't recovered. We need to work at finding ways to bring tourists here in an economical fashion that they can afford and experience some of the absolutely wonderful things that we have to offer. So, with that in mind, I'd like to thank you very much for your time this evening, and I support option B.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is David Enos. I teach up at McKinneyville High School. I work for the Humboldt Regional Occupational Program. I'm involved with about 90 plus students on a daily basis, and have been for the last 17 years. I've been in Humboldt County for over 35 years now. I know I don't look old enough. No, I don't look like that. No, I don't. What I'd like to present is I've been here long enough that I've gone from being a Humboldt State, I wouldn't say hippie, but sort of a Christian authority type guy to a much more of a conservative now. And I've seen lots of different thought processes come and go through the Humboldt County region. And I've seen a lot of people who have, because of their belief system, try to limit change and opportunity that's been available here in the county. And I would like to put my 2 cents in that we need to expand on the possibilities of what we can do with our bay. I've driven up and down the bay for too long and seen too many things that haven't been done, and people then, when they want to get things done, there's a whole host of people that come out of the woodwork and say we can't do that, or we shouldn't do that, or it's going to be a negative impact on our community. And I think that we need to look at the positive things we can do with the bay. And I think the option B, while not perfect, I think it's the better of the two, and I think it leaves a lot of the options open that our young people for tomorrow will have more options. And as the gentleman before me said, a lot of things are going to be coming along that we don't even know about yet. I tell my students that they need to learn how to learn, and they don't even know a lot of the jobs that are going to be available for them because they aren't here yet. And I think the same thing with this community. We can't really read everything into what's going to be happening in the future because it's a lot of it's an unknown. So I'd just like for you to consider keeping all the options open, and that we can do what's best for the community when the time comes. Thank you.
Thank you.
those aren't bad. Good evening, Mr. President, Commissioners. I'm not tall or short, I'm just fat. Thank you. But all us fat guys are jolly, right, ma'am? Right? I really enjoy speaking after Dennis because I'm so sensitive and caring. So thanks, Sal, you did it again. A lot of fun tonight. A lot of good speakers, a lot of good ideas. My name is Rich Trigar. I'm Operations Manager for SSA Pacific here in Eureka. I will refer the commissioners to my email. David, did you get my email? And he will forward the email on to you guys. So I'll refer you guys to my email comments. In short, I think you have an opportunity for the district. You know, you can provide something that's currently not available. And I keep hearing multi-purpose. That's a good sound. That's a good word. It's a good idea. Cargo, non-cargo, Navy, cruise, research. It's all good. I know we're not going to make any decisions tonight. I know you guys are going to continue to talk about this. I would encourage the Harbor District to explore your options. A, B, whatever. And I also want to echo the comment before of having a civilized debate. I think that's terrific. I think everybody tonight has done that. And that's wonderful. Remember the mandate of the Harbor District. Like Dennis, I spent several months on the Strategic Plan Review Committee. The mandate of the Harbor District, harbor, recreation, and conservation. You have to achieve balance, and that's a difficult target. Good luck with that. That's kind of the end of my prepared notes. I will echo one of my good employees on the other side of the room over there, Damien, who did say about our new equipment. We just got done spending a great deal of money on some new trackers. Our commitment to the port, our private investment in the port. CARB's new regs started in marine terminals and intermodal yards that are going out from there. So concerns about pollutions and things like that, it's going to get better and better and better and better. I think let's read my email. So that's a good place for us to start. And remember that while not totally dead, we have some representatives of the ILW tonight. Both SSA Pacific and the ILW are here, and we can help in the process, and we look forward to doing so. Thank you.
My name is Chin. You guys can know that. I'm not an American. I'm an American citizen.
That makes you an American.
Yeah, I'm American. I moved to Humboldt County about 35 years ago. I lived in Humboldt County for almost about 80% of my lifetime. Humboldt County is one of the most beautiful locations I ever feel. That's why I am a resident of Humboldt County. When I came to Humboldt County, I'm a long-haired hippie from Berkeley, so I know about Oakland. Right now, I lost all my hair already. Humboldt Bay, you're looking at the whole thing, all the commissioner, we are talking about recreation, conservation. Actually, we never talk about the next generation. If you look around, we got less and less youth. The only thing it hurts me, when my next generation, my daughter told me, Dad, this is the best place, but I don't think I can make a living here. If we create, we got recreation, we got conservation, for what? For us? I hate to say that. I maybe have, if I'm lucky, I got another 10 years. So we are actually doing for the next generation. The world is smaller. We cannot say that, okay, it cannot be done. That means our forefront generation Our grandfather, when they come to Humboldt County, they built a railroad. They got a port. Right now what we heard about is that we talk about we can't do this, we can't do that. The world is smaller, you know that. Unless we don't buy anything from the foreign country, their product is going to shipping in. Somebody is going to make the money. But if our kids don't have a job, well, we got trail, we can combine together, but who is going to enjoy it? United States, I find out it's more and more like China already. We care about family. But if our kids don't have a job, where are you guys go? You want to move to your family? Then that means the kid is not in Humboldt County. I have to endorse this commissioner because at least you guys step forward to look for the future for this Humboldt Bay. Thank you.
I not necessarily want to encourage anyone, but I don't want to. But I would like to get on. We've been at this about an hour and a half. So if nothing else is under this item, we will move on to the consent calendar. So,
I got a question, Roy, on the process, being the new guy here. Will we weigh in on this at some later point in the agenda in terms of how we as commissioners feel? Or,
no, there's nothing.
All right, I find some flaws in the report. I'll give it to Dave. You can give it to the consultant, and I look for it to be improved by the 28th of February.
Entertain a motion for the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. We approve the consent calendar. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll get on with our chief executive report.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick, one quick update, and then I got a couple of little things that are coming up. We didn't, I know I put out some warning, and OES said that there was going to be storm damage and things around the bank, and fortunately we didn't have any that were directly related to the harbor district. So, like I think I told some of you, I chalked that up to having well-prepared staff. Today, as I think Roy mentioned, I spoke at the Fortuna Rotary Club. I gave a talk on the feasibility study. So we're starting to make the rounds with that, just explaining what's going on and getting the word out as best we can. Thing you might be interested in is tomorrow is the end of the recruitment period for our Director of Facility Maintenance position that you created back in May. We've had a couple of false starts with that, but it's been out now for a while. Like I said, tomorrow's the end date for that, and I'm hoping that within a couple of weeks we'll be into interviews. And lastly, the first of next week, we'll actually begin our recruiting process for our Director of Conservation Division position. Remember, that was a position that Jeff had, and Jeff left us lots of work to do. We've been working on that the last 6 months, and so now we're ready to move out and recruit and try to find somebody for the position. Not to replace Jeff, of course, but to fill in those duties that we've missed so much. So that's my report.
Thank you. District Council.
Roy, I got a question for Dave. Is that out of order?
No, go ahead.
Dave, I have special interest, and I am, biological professional, and I'm wondering, is there an opportunity for board members sometimes to participate in the selection of their staff?
It's been again. It's what's the best way to put it? Kind of specific to the actual position. The most recent one that we had some commission input in was the Director of Maritime Commerce, and that was because it was a brand new position, and I didn't really have anybody else to help me work on that. In the case of the Director of Conservation Division, Chad Roberts and I will be the ones that will be working on that. So.
Well, so now, a consultant to the board has say and gets hired and a board member does not?
He's an officer, actually.
Oh, he is.
He is.
Yeah, he's our planning officer.
There we go, see, live and learn.
That's all right, when you get in on the board a few years, you'll
Plus,
understand who runs things.
It's still up in the air.
Thank you, David. How about district council?
There's nothing to report, Mr. President.
Thank you. Staff report? Commissioner report? Ronnie?
The only thing I have to report is, David, I've had several constituents call about the feasibility study. Should I get their comments to you?
yes.
Okay, that's all I have.
I'm not used to that. Yes, if the comment period, as we've talked about, is 4 p.m. on Tuesday the 15th. And so if you're collecting comments, we're getting them in the office, we're getting them from our website, email address. We're putting those all together in a package that hopefully on the 16th we'll be sending down to Trans Systems so they can start analyzing comments.
One more question along those lines. If we get comments from a constituent directly to us through the district's website, does the district get a copy of that, or do we forward that one to you?
To be safe, it'd be good to forward it to you.
Okay.
We normally keep those, and Misty's on the lookout for those. But just to make sure we get them all on the record. If I get 2 of the same one, that's fine.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wilson?
Not too much to report. Today is the first day of the celebration of the 150 years after the incorporation of Arcata. And they started that celebration tonight. Making Fortuna at 100 years, our junior. Oh, I'm sorry. Making Fortuna.
That's all right.
100 years, our 50 years, our junior, but at only 100 years. So, anyways, we're gonna have a year-long celebration, and it'll be good times. So that's all I have.
I think the only comment I had is when one of our speakers stood up and said how long he's been here. And I remember I watched him play basketball for the Eureka High Heavyweights. John, you're a great basketball player.
I didn't tell you how long I've been here.
No, you didn't. You did not give it away. Thank you. I have nothing else to report.
Commissioner Higgins?
Well, Roy. Come on now. There we go. All right. So figure out how to use the mic, and then we don't get the meat here after this. I did spend about, I guess 6 or 8 hours reviewing these documents, and I'm going to get 2 cents in here, out of order or not. I don't think that the report shows feasibility. I don't think it gives us enough information to judge economically whether or not either option A or option B is viable. I think they're still in conflict with the revitalization plan, which has not as yet, to my mind, been refuted. And I'm not used to a board, whereas a board member, I don't get a chance to share. I think that the public has some interest in terms of what the commissioners might think about this, and having not had input prior, even a sitting member such as Mike, and then getting the consultant's report, getting their Simonized, and then listening to the public, and we're still not commenting. I'm not quite sure how this process is actually allowing us to share with one another, and then we can't meet outside this meeting because of the Brown Act. So I hope you'll pardon me for giving you my 2 cents worth, and I will maintain the custom of sharing in writing so that everything's above board. We're not violating the Brown Act, but you can know what I think.
Okay.
Roy, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm hoping that on February 28th, when this is on the agenda, at least I think that's what your plan is, David, that we do have a chance as a board to hear more public comment, but mostly at that time it would be our chance to comment on it. And then I think that you do have the power of a vote, and it's going to be a very important vote on February 28th. So I think, at least I think that that's when we make our comments.
Yeah.
So.
I think the debate would be on at that point.
Right.
Well, then how's the consultant supposed to know, unless we submit in writing, as I just did, what our reservations are? And how are we to know one another what our reservations are? So we can only then know when the final is it's a fait accompli, it's a done deal. And so I just for the future reference, you know, I just think that process here is somewhat lacking. Thank you.
Sometimes we do not know what's going on necessarily because we're watching about for the Brown Act, and we can't discuss things. You can discuss things with David, all right, but you can't discuss things with Dennis and then with Mike, because that's a violation of the Brown Act.
Yeah, so that's why I'm thinking, Roy, that, you know, when we're here in this meeting and before God and all his angels, that we can share with one another so that we understand how we think about these reports. And, you know, hopefully you guys have put the same amount of work in that I have, and I would value your insight as much as I would the consultants.
Well, tonight was basically for the public to make their comments. And in the due course of time, we will hear, I'm sure we'll hear plenty from you and the rest of the...
You'll never have a problem with that, right?
Well, I'd just like to say that I'll throw my 2 cents in for Commissioner Higgins' hopefully benefit, is I look at it as I'm trying to keep an open mind right up until the time I cast my vote. If I come out with my opinions before the vote, I think I'm doing a disservice to my constituents.
How about the consultant, Ronnie? How's the consultant going to know? Are you communicating
with them
or filing comments in writing? Because, you know, we're paying for this product, and I want this product to be the best that it could be. And, if, you know, so I've got my comments in writing, and I hope that you guys are making a similar effort, because we're driving the bus on this. The consultants work for us.
And I absolutely made a trip down to the district office early on and met with the consultants, and I think any one of the commissioners had the option to do that.
Is that the case, Dave? Is that the case?
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you.
I didn't know that we could meet with the consultants. I mean, I didn't know that.
I was there, and they were meeting, and so absolutely, I met with them.
Oh, well, I'd like that opportunity sometime myself.
David, could you...
The district office pretty much every day, Mike.
Okay, wait a minute.
Could I make a suggestion, Mr. President, that if we don't have it already, you provide us with contact information. I think it's in part of the study, but that we have the right, any of us commissioners can call and talk to our consultants.
Do we have that right?
Why don't?
I don't know.
Well, let's take that right. What do you say?
It's up to maybe the lawyer could tell us.
Paul?
Paul?
There's no legal reason why you can or can't.
Okay.
So.
Can I just add something before you finish up? The way this project was set up was to do exactly what you've been doing. You've taken in the public comment. You established a timeline to receive comments, which includes your comments. But the meeting tonight was set up to get comments from the public. You have the same deadline. You've given me some comments back on December 6th, I believe, the first meeting. So those all go into the pile. Those all go to the consultant, so the consultant can look at all those kind of things. It's just not that it was not an interactive sort of a board thing. It was more, this was for the public to get, so you can see what their concerns are to help you in your decision making.
Right, which is different than interactive interaction with consultants. But I would like to, you know, since I don't know, somehow we got into this conversation with regards to process, and, you know, I have several times said that there is process. I have process issues with regards to the way sometimes we do stuff here where things seem to come fait accompli to us, and then we're told, well, you can vote on it or not vote on it. And one example was, for me, the strategic plan, where our board really only had an opportunity as a board to talk about it together when it came to us as a final. And that's one example. And so I'd like us to try and move away from that. And actually, I did have a concern that on tonight's agenda, that the discussion, that it wasn't a discussion with regards to the feasibility study. It was comments only. And I think we do need to engage with the public a little bit more and actually have it agendized. But, you know, I didn't get in there early enough, I suppose, to make my point very clear on that. But I would like us to work more towards agendizing comment periods where we don't actually have to make a decision, where we do actually have a discussion and dialogue with our constituents. That's all. I mean,
Okay, was there any advisory committee reports? Anything under other? There's nothing under non-agenda, nothing under unfinished. New business, we've taken care of the Davenport resolution. The next resolution is consideration of resolution 2008-2, endorsing an application for the California Transportation Commission for the Northern Freight Corridor Restoration Project.
Mr. President, to get this on the table for a discussion, I'd like to move the resolution 2008-02 endorsing that application.
Second.
Motion made and seconded that we endorse this resolution. Any questions?
Yeah.
Comments?
I got a few. Do we want to take public comment or do we want to dive in ourselves first?
We'll dive in and then we'll ask for the public.
All right. Well, I'll just go through this methodically as I can. This is an application, a co-application with ourselves and NCRA. And honestly, I have to say I have some pretty big concerns with regards to the application. Its eligibility, its where it leads us in a legal manner, its public support or not public support, and really its impact on our credibility as well as an agency. I have some questions, I suppose, that I can start going through. And I'll start with the NCRA part because we are co-applicants, and I want to make sure that if we're signing on to an application with another agency that the information makes sense. And this application is for Prop 1B, which is congestion relief funds. And this project is basically a rail revitalization from Samoa to South Fork, and looking at shoaling issues in our harbor there. And I guess for me, there's just so much of this that I have issues with. I mean, the first one is, how is this and how is it placed in here? It says it's congestion relief, but I just really, how do we tie this to congestion relief?
That's a question.
That's a question. How do we tie it to congestion relief?
We tie it to the grant process because we meet a couple of the criteria a couple of the guidelines and the guiding documents that the California Transportation Commission is going to use. In the truest sense, this isn't like the city of Los Angeles trying to figure out congestion relief down there. They did create here kind of late in the process, a month or so ago, they created an other corridor category.
Saw that.
And that's the category that we compete in. We don't compete in any of the other corridors. And the CTC, made an effort and has made an effort for the last several years as this whole bond issue was developing and the guidance documents were coming out to try and make it an integrated statewide system. So in fact, you're right. There are those kind of words throughout the law, throughout the bond. But CTC was also tasked with, then once it passed, implementing the program. And so they've made it real clear that the projects that we have up here are eligible for this.
Okay, I mean, even in the language for the new application, when it says other corridors, they refer to them as high volume freight movement corridors, would be even the other corridors. So I'm having, again, it's like when we spend our time and energy applying for funding for these sorts of things, being competitive is an issue as to whether or not we do that. And so, I guess for me, it's like if you look at there's 4 or 5 eligibility issues with regards to this. One is, how does it relieve congestion? One big one is here, how does it reduce air pollution? Those are big issues, and so we still haven't answered the question with regards to how we're reducing air pollution or reducing congestion.
If we took every grant process to the letter of what was in their thing, we probably wouldn't apply for anything. We just applied for, you mentioned it probably a couple of months ago, a $902,000 one with a whole bunch of different partners. That's a long shot also. you know, we're way up there on the north coast, and we don't compete well for a lot of these different things. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be trying for them. In fact, the board's direction has been we should try for these.
Okay.
So to the extent that we've done the best job we can, and I think both your staff and NCRA staff did a great job of pulling something together in a relatively short time. You know, we didn't know the guidelines or the deadline until after Thanksgiving. So just like the $902,000 wetland grant, you know, a lot of people came together in a very short period of time and put a lot of time and effort into pulling it together, making it as competitive as we possibly can. The other thing too is CTC will, those are their guidelines. We don't know who else really fits other corridors, so we don't really know what the competitive advantage or disadvantages we really have. We put the best face forward. These are projects that both NCRA and your staff thought were high priority projects.
One question is this project, what do we call it, the Northern Corridor restoration? Now, we keep referring to the reference to the Cal-MITSAC report, and the Cal-MITSAC report really references the North State Corridor, I think. And so, how does that work in terms of, like, I mean, this piece isn't really specifically mentioned in Cal-MITSAC, which, by the way, is a report that the state put out which tries to put funding priorities for transportation. This agency got a request in for $100 million for the port and $100 million for NCRA combined. But that's the assumption of going all the way to the Bay Area, I believe. And so this doesn't do that. And so how does that fit Cal-MITSAC in that way?
The Cal-MITSAC, as you recall, in the Cal-MITSAC list, well, two things. Cal-MITSAC is the language that you say is the language that was there. That was 2 years ago language, and its Cal-MITSAC report's actually being revised right now to be updated to fit that. We were in another document called the Goods Movement Action Plan. We were called the Northern Corridor for a while, and then that went away. So Cal-MITSAC had parroted that language. More importantly, Cal-MITSAC basically was one of the three documents that really had specific projects listed in it. And the rail projects, well, it's our estimation the rail projects are in there. It says reestablish the rail line, the Northwestern Pacific Rail Line. And that's what NCRA has picked this portion of that as being the most competitive and the most timely piece that they think would compete.
Okay. What's going to run on this rail line? I see 6,000 rail carloads annually. You know, when NCRA ended its run, you know, in 1997, it was running 6,800 rail cars total for the entire line annually. So this is like basically running as much as the rail line was running when it shut down from South Fork to Samoa.
Right.
Have we identified freight for that?
We haven't. That's the job of the NWPCO, the operator of the rail line, to do that. That's not even NCRA's job to identify the cargo or the freight that's on there. That's the operator's job. The numbers that are in there and the proposed repairs in this grant application came directly from the operator and the engineer.
Okay, I've heard that they're not giving up or saying what the 6,000 cars are, the operator, and I personally have a hard time with that. They're asking for the government to build them $15 million plus a $15 million loan, to give them $15 million and a $15 million loan to build infrastructure and not tell the granting or loaning company who or what the customers are, when and if they're coming, and they can walk away at any time. And I just have, for me, that is a really, where's that program for me? I'm just, you know, it's like as a business owner, I couldn't, you know, you work at a bank. Where can you go and just credit union? Sorry, I'm a member. Thank you. And
don't use the B word.
And so, you know, I just find it's almost unfathomable to me that someone could stand up at a body like the NCRA and essentially to ourselves and ask us to really haul water for them and not tell us what it is they're going to do.
with it. And that is a really tough row to hoe for me. And I don't understand that. And I guess for me, it's like when we're supposed to be doing, if it's new freight, then there's no way that that's congestion reduction. There's no way that that's emission reduction. And so it actually goes kind of in the opposite direction of what the grant proposal is looking at. And for me, that's an issue that I have. And I know people talk about gravel, and I'll say it. People will say it's gravel, it's gravel, it's gravel, it's gravel. I've talked to some gravel operators, I've talked to some shippers, I've talked to some folks, and I'm not getting a lot of positive feedback on the business model. And so I really have my suspicions and doubts, and I think that we have a fiduciary responsibility in that regard. I have another question with regards to the cost. It's estimated to rebuild the rail between Samoa and Southport in the strategic plan for NCRA $39 million. And it's $30 million. I've never heard of an NCRA project going down in cost. What is the basis for that?
Again, it was based on the engineer, NCRA's engineers, and the operator. They've done, and you've seen it in some of the documents. They do the mile post to mile post kind of repairs on there.
I read it, yeah.
Now that doesn't say that. I think maybe where the difference is what he wanted to do. If I shouldn't speak for him, but I kind of will, I guess.
They're not here.
Because we're into some of the conversations. What they wanted to do is to reestablish that piece of the corridor, the South Fork to Samoa. That doesn't mean it gets it all up to snuff and does everything that's in some of those previous reports that were the higher numbers. This was kind of the basic amount that he felt comfortable. Because remember, he's got to go borrow an equal amount, and although it's a federal source, he's still obligated for the loan.
Yeah.
So he didn't want to get invest more than it took to open the line and still make it more than he couldn't pay off with whatever his business plan is.
Well, okay, because the estimate for $39 million is Class 1 service. So anything that's sub-Class 1 service, no passengers run on. So we have to be really clear about that when folks are thinking that there's going to be tourist trains running based on these numbers. That's not what I see. If you're reducing from your Class 1 by 25%, and it's interesting here because one of the risks is deterioration of the rail line as a result of storm damage and delayed repairs will result in increased construction costs. Okay, it's already gone down in price, yet it's a risk that it's increased. The response from that is NCRA has escalated the cost estimates included in the application. They haven't escalated the cost estimates by their own. They went down 25%. So I don't know. This is, to me, I have, that's a big slip in numbers, and I have a hard time reconciling that.
I think the difference is that it went down because it's not, in a sense they're kind of apples and oranges. The expensive one is doing everything, the one that he's proposing, and you're right, there is no mile post by mile post description of what exactly he's going to do.
So it went down and then it went back up again to 30, I guess. I don't know. The other part I have sort of kind of going into this is getting into our part. I have to say I want to do the Shoaling City. You know that. I'm way into that. I'm way into it for the reasons that we need to do it. I'm way into it because I'm just a nerd and I just think it'd be really great to do. And it's all, we really do need to get into that. That's a $4 million study. Well, 3.2 or something like that. And we're estimating the implementation of the project to be $4 million. That's a one-to-one. I have to say, never in my life have I seen a project cost the same as a feasibility study, if only that were true for the marine terminal. That just, the ratio just seems so off. If I was a funding agency, I would just beg the question, like, how's that possible? I'd also like to state that these funds, the matching funds would have to pay for the study because these funds only pay for construction, as it says in the grant application. So that's a concern I have. I mean, the grant application was really clear that the expectation is that these funds would be spent on construction only. So, it would be incumbent upon us to get the grant from the federal government. Do we have a letter of commitment or anything like that from them in that regard?
No. And interestingly, it's on the Harbor District's shoulders to do the agreement with the Corps.
Mm-hmm.
Several years ago, when the recon study was finished, the Corps of Engineers came to the district and said, okay, the next phase is the feasibility study. It's around $3 million. You have to pay for half of it, and that was a lot of discussion about how important that project was, but how $1.5 million was a lot of money. Ever since that time, and I got to say that was probably 2004 or 5. We have tried to work with the state of California to at least provide a portion of that cost share. It's state property that we're working on out there. We're trying to improve. It certainly has statewide benefits, and it's been a long road of hope. The proposition here, although not ideally suited to it, is the closest thing we've ever got to it. We've done a lot of work in Sacramento and through CalMetSAC and things like this to try and get these kind of things on their radar screen.
Right, but I'm more interested in whether the feds are going to give up the money.
Well, the feds, I'm sorry, I got off on a tangent there, but coming back to it, if you were to, at your next meeting, sign the cost share agreement with the feds, the Corps would go to work on Congress trying to get the money appropriated. Now that's, as we know from the deepening project, that's not an instant thing. That doesn't happen right away. You need $4 million, you might get 100,000 one year and 400,000 the next year or something. But it starts it in the process. The Corps can't spend any more money than we can match. And so they're really waiting for us to say we've got the match before they can go do it. As you've seen our legislative priorities, we continue to ask Congress for that match.
There's 4 or 5 paragraphs in here about congestion in other ports, about containers. How does this project address that? And why is it in this application?
The piece of the grant application you're talking about is kind of the stage setting part of it. It's sort of this is the reality. There's going to be projections of more cargo and the capacities are going to be filled up at these other ports coming down the road and things like that. It's put in there more to set the stage that these are important elements, that the Port of Humboldt Bay is actually one of 11 deep water ports in California, and that even as it is, it's one of the deeper ones as that.
So are we proposing that those containers will go to South Fork and offload, or?
I haven't seen John's business model. I don't know.
Well, I have to say, right out front, I mean, it's obvious why it's in there. I mean, it's obvious because the vision between the port and the rail is to run containers south. And it's just kind of disingenuous to sort of fake it because the NCRA is getting sued by Novato and say, well, we're not really going to go there. We're not really interested in that now. We'll wait to see what the judge says, type of thing. It's hard to participate in a process that's so thinly veiled, I guess, for me. That's really, it's hard. I mean, it's like nowhere in here does it directly say that that's what you mean when you talk about congestion relief, but that's really what you mean. And I think our board should be cautious because if we pass this and move forward with this, we could have Novato knocking on our door, because we are tying ourselves at the hip with NCRA, which was my